Hey everyone, my name is Troy Myers. I'm a graduate of the Stone Coast MFA in Creative Writing. Welcome again to another one of our Sunday night reading series where we host alumni and in some cases special guests. Next week we have Christina Procchio opening for Rick Bass, who is one of the fiction and creative nonfiction faculty at Stone Coast. I am super happy to be here. I was just thinking before we came on how I heard someone say recently, life is a series of moments, or life is moments. And these moments for me are truly a highlight of my week. This has got me writing again, and I feel like I have a family growing here. Both those few who watch and those who read. If you are a Stone Coast alumna, you are faculty at Stone Coast, present or past, or you're a graduating student, we would love to have you come on and read. So we're full through June, but we have spots in August. Amanda and I have gone to every other week in the summer months. It gives us a bit more time to book folks and also to travel. So my mom, saying hello to my mom as I always do, and hello to Amanda's mom. My mom asked me this week, Troy, how come there wasn't a reading last weekend? Because we went to every other week. So that was heartwarming. And those of you who are looking now, in 2 weeks we'll be back. We have 3 fantastic guests tonight. I won't talk for long because I want to get everybody on and give them their full time. These are folks, I know I saw Alexis read when I was a new student. I believe Amanda also, and I think I've seen Nikki read. We have Alexis Paige, who is a creative nonfiction author. She has one book already out, a memoir, and another one coming. She'll tell us more about that in a second. We have Amanda Johnston reading poetry. And I didn't ask Nikki how to say her name. I just saw her briefly, but I think I'll just say Nikki Patin, who is CNF in poetry, and she can correct me when she comes on. These are talented folks, and they are passionate authors, all 3. So I am really looking forward to this. Bhutan, thank you. Not the French Bhutan, but Bhutan. I will bring on Alexis and we'll get started because it's going to be a great night. So thank you so much.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Alexis. How are you?
Here. Okay. This is the stream.
We can see you and we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Paige, and I'm going to be reading from my second book, which is forthcoming in February 2022. I can't believe that's the year that I just said out loud. It's a craft memoir, and it's called Work Hard, Not Smart, Dispatches from a Creative Life. And I'm going to read 2 short chapters from it. So I'm going to start with an essay called A Portrait of the Writer as a Young Obsessive Compulsive.
Sounds great. Take it away. It's all you.
As a teenager, when I thought writer, I imagined berets, rooms wispy with smoke, lithe fingers craned over typewriters, and international intrigue. Someone might have told me then that I was mixing up writer with spy. Someone might have told me it would never again be Paris in the 1920s, that it was 1991 in America, and women wore absurd shoulder pads like lipstick linebackers. Belle Biv DeVoe had not 1, but 2 hit songs on the radio, and every time I flipped on the news, a fembot was talking about Clarence Thomas and pubic hair. My standout success as a writer had been a paper on Jane Eyre that my high school AP Women's Studies teacher mimeographed and passed around to the class, in which I wrote the night before it was due, and as always, under extreme duress. Surely I had an undiagnosed mental disorder, for I could not simply sit down with 1 clean sheet of paper and write out a tidy alphanumeric outline and then follow said outline as I typed merrily for a reasonable window of time, and during which I did not chew pens or sit in various weird bird postures in my chair. As I began the paper, if began is the right word for spending an hour choosing which notebook or journal to write it in, and another looking up mental disorders in the encyclopedia, I tore out sheet after sheet of the same bumbling intro paragraph. The discarded sheets littered the floor around my chair, next to an exploded pen, a thesaurus, and class notes that were written in 2 separate notebooks and in the margins of various vocabulary handouts. Perhaps I kept my feet up in the chair because the mounting paperwork felt like sharks, the floor like dangerous waters. In fact, I did have a mental disorder, ADHD, inattentive type. But I wouldn't learn that until I was 40, an ostensible grown-up by then who was still struggling with the mundane tasks of daily life. My husband teases that I sometimes exude the whiff of an aristocrat who has stumbled upon a reversal of fortune or fish out of water circumstance. He's referring to the fact that I literally cannot boil rice properly, which he thinks makes me seem snooty, perhaps remote. Though I am a snob in other ways, on this count, I claim only the latter. Perhaps I became a writer and later a professor for no other reason than it provides convenient cover for my quirks, all of which fit neatly under the banner of absent-minded professor. They didn't diagnose kids with ADD in the late 70s and early 80s the way they do now, much less shy, bookwormish girls. But I'm not sure that would have mattered for my dad, my primary parent, when my parents split and I moved from Arizona to New Hampshire in the middle of 3rd grade, was and still is of the old school. That first year in New Hampshire was difficult. I struggled in math and really anything that wasn't reading, writing, or gym. And since I was about 6 months or so younger than my classmates anyway, with a birthday in late fall, my new teacher suggested I stay back a grade. "She's reading the Red Badge of Courage as we speak," I remember my dad telling her, his face flushed and angry, gesturing for me to produce the evidence of my prowess from my book bag. When I was formally diagnosed with ADHD a few years ago, I asked my dad if he remembered this confrontation. The truth is, I've always struggled with working smart. The truth is, I've always struggled with working smart, not hard. The formula just doesn't seem to be typed into my genetic code. "Maybe she was right," I said to Dad. "Who? That dingbat? She wore suede and lacked gravitas," he huffed. And I wonder why I am the way that I am. I radiated pride and fake humbleness as the teacher handed out my star paper, throughout which I had parroted the prior week's vocab words. Ignominy, Bildungsroman, Byronic hero. But other than this one glittering paper, I had no reason to believe I could be a writer. I resisted writing, for one. I was undisciplined, only got in the chair once the conditions became so dire that I was like a NORAD analyst pulling the overnight shift. Yes, I was a strong student and loved to read, but my research papers were hopelessly disorganized, my arguments muddied, and I had written only a few short stories, bad Mother's Day poetry, and some clever mixtape titles. The short stories all starred Alex, a bumbling suburban white girl who often jogged by the house of one Sean O'Henry, and who spent untold hours listening to Prince tracks while making prank phone calls from the mission control center of her best friend's bedroom. At the time, I thought fiction meant changing people's names, but leaving the soundtrack intact. My reasons for wanting to be a writer, too, were unclear. At a conference I went to a few years ago, Tobias Wolff gave a wonderful keynote address about his own origins as a writer, citing Hemingway and an old photo of Hemingway and Ava Gardner on his arm. Wolff said that Hemingway was the closest figure he'd ever seen to a rock star, and so the die was cast. This sounds right. I'm not sure my reasons for being a writer are any more noble than that. In high school, I was so averse to clutter and paperwork that instead of writing phone messages for the priest at the church where I worked after school, Our Lady of Teenage Hormone Repression, I believe it was called, I just memorized the names and numbers of the callers. Even if I could find the pink tablet on which I was supposed to take the messages beneath the hoarders-esque piles, I wouldn't have written them down and added to the mess. Almost no one called anyway, except Father Tom from our sister parish across town, the Virgin Mary's Cherry, or Sister Deirdre from CCD, the Catholic education program we all just called Central City Dump. Father Joe would poke his head into the office and I would say, "So-and-so called," and he would nod through the dust motes and slouch away into the caverns of the rectory. And then I would call around to all the girlfriends I had left only hours earlier at the end of 6th period bell to bitch about the clutter and speculate on the movements of one Sean O'Henry. Years later, when I worked at a law office as a file clerk, the records room gave me the vapors with its groaning cabinets and files like disembowelment wounds. Ghastly. The point is, somewhere in my heady staggering toward becoming a writer, I overlooked a central necessity: paperwork. Literal reams, triplicate backups of printer cartridges, piles of paper stacked all over that, despite how artfully arranged, yip and swipe at your attention constantly. Sticky notes written in semi-conscious cursive, unintelligible the morning after. Stacks of books. The "I can't believe you've never read X" stack. The stack to understand the "how can you never have read X" stack. The hopeless bourgeois climber stack. The stack to escape from this "seriously, you've never read X and call yourself an intellectual" stack. And finally, the books on your bedside table, the "your nobody loves you, lullabies for self-esteem" stack. So it probably shouldn't have surprised me when the wheels fell off my already tenuous sanity recently, as I found myself searching for notes on a scene that I had written, sometime in the fall, winter, and which suddenly seemed urgent. This was the scene that was going to crack open the thing I was writing. This was the Kafka ice axe scene, which had emerged brilliant and fully formed one morning while I inhaled a muffin and prepped for teaching a composition class. Naturally, I marked its arrival on a sticky note and stuffed it in the back of whatever book I happened to be reading in fall, winter. The sticky and scrap note situation in my life is dire. And don't even get me started on the dust motes. But even worse is the situation on my laptop with its too many and probably redundant files of essays, memoir, and what have you. It's an emerging genre, okay? No fewer than a dozen versions of whatever thing I'm writing live on my desktop at any given time, on various thumb drives, on old floppies, and in clouds, all with increasingly hysterical names. Book.doc, original draft, .doc, book draft with braids 2017, .doc, all caps, current draft, .doc, all caps, scenes only draft 2018, .doc, all caps, is it possible I am making it worse 2019, .doc, all caps, hey asshole, are you ever going to finish this book draft 2020, .doc, and finally 2021, kill yourself, .doc. So how can a writer manage all the minutia and paperwork? The hell if I know. I wish I had some practical advice that would change your life. The 12 habits of highly productive people, the writerly equivalent of the perfect t-shirt fold, some filing system, a clever mnemonic. But I still have my oak tag journals from 2nd grade. I still have every school notebook, every diary, every boozy journal I ever wrote in, all stuffed into one grandmotherly valise, which I only call a valise because everything sounds better in French. My methods, such as they are hopeless, messy, not worth describing. For every good writer knows to skip the stuff the reader will, or should. The truth is, balancing a life of writing, teaching, reading, and creating has always felt too hard, has always felt just beyond my reach. But I guess you already know what I never seem to, that the reaching is, in fact, the whole point. That it's only in living beyond or above or past or outside of ourselves that we'll ever learn anything, that will ever be useful, that will ever be satisfied. My best advice: accept the hot mess, make tidy stacks once in a while, chew as many pens as you need to, write anyway. So that's an opening chapter of the book. And now I'm going to read kind of a mid chapter. It's called Launching Your Balloon on Publication. Launching Your Balloon, on publication. Not long before the Challenger space shuttle exploded at 48,000 feet over Florida, and on the television screen squatted atop the AV cart rolled into my 5th grade classroom, my elementary school held a balloon launch. Hundreds of balloon messages made liftoff to points unknown from a quiet wooded knoll in southern New Hampshire. We wrote messages on scraps of paper about what I can't remember, rolled them tightly, inserted the messages into balloons, and passed them to Mr. Rube, my lanky 5th grade teacher who spent hours blowing them up. Mr. Rube ran marathons, and he ran so much that he sometimes wore his running tights in class, or we found him napping at his desk after lunch. I used to see him running through the neighborhood after school, and in that way that we project lives of great mystery onto our teachers, I imagined that even overnight, Mr. Rube dashed through the sleepy streets of our city, and that's what made him so tired. After lunch on the day of the balloon launch, we found Mr. Rube at his desk, beaming from behind a curtain of shiny red orbs that danced and bounced all around him. I understood then that we were engaged in a magical transaction. From our own pens, from our little classroom, to the balloons, to the sky, to the world. Whether the messages shot to heaven or snagged on a tree or sagged sadly to earth or burned up upon re-entry was now up to the universe. Some months later, after the Challenger exploded and after Krista McAuliffe, the beloved school teacher from nearby Concord, died in the explosion, I got a reply to my balloon message from Virginia. Virginia! I couldn't believe it. I looked it up on the map and traced my finger the 600 odd miles my balloon had traveled. I couldn't remember then what I had written, but I hoped that it was important. I hoped that I had said something worthy of such a journey. I remember feeling sad too, knowing that Krista McAuliffe's message would never be delivered, wondering what her balloon might have said. On the day my first book launched in 2016, I found myself overcome by the same glee and awe I felt in the early winter of 1986 as I watched hundreds of red balloons twirl off into the gray sky over Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm no stranger to breathing life into sentences and then sending them into the world, but breathing life into a book and then sending it into the world is different. It's not only the scale of the project, but also the implicit request one makes of the reader for their sustained attention. These words now belonged to the world. I hoped mainly that I'd said something important, something of the worthy of the miles they traveled to reach you. Thank you.
Alexis, thank you.
You're welcome.
What was your first book again? It was a memoir, yes?
Yeah, it was a memoir in vignettes or pieces of flash nonfiction, if you want to be more precise, called Not a Place on Any Map.
Not a Place on Any Map. Yeah, I really want to read that. I heard you read from that when I was at Stone Coast, and it was very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
it's a little snack-sized book, so you can read it in a couple hours in a short plane hop.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. You teach somewhere. You said you're a professor. Where do you teach at?
Yeah, I teach at Vermont Technical College.
It's in a good location.
Yeah, it is a nice location. I was an adjunct professor for 11 years, and for the last couple of years was hired full-time. But I was an adjunct while I was at Stone Coast, and part of the reason that I went to Stone Coast was because I wanted to continue teaching and, hopefully get on the tenure track someday, be rewarded for my loyalty, which is not, how the economy works anymore. But anyway, it worked out for me, and I'm very grateful. But Stone Coast was a great program because I was working, cobbling together a bunch of adjunct jobs and trying to write at the same time. So
Yeah, well, good for you for getting the tenure track. I part-time 5 years, which is not 11, but I got lucky too. I love the NORAD analyst, and they talk about putting off your writing. What you just read was so. I've taught writing composition mostly. I've just started creative writing forever.
Yeah.
And I love to hear someone write about their personal writing process.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so you talked about putting off all the procrastination, NORAD analyst. Is that different for you now, or do you still?
No.
Okay.
No. If anything, it might be worse, which is insane.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know that other people. Was it William Stafford? I think William Stafford said a writer is someone for whom I'm paraphrasing. A writer is someone for whom writing is more difficult than other people. And it may not have been William Stafford, so don't quote me on any of this. But
that's a good quote.
I think, the stakes get higher. You, of course, want to keep developing your craft and get better. And the innate, architecture circuitry of how my mind works has not changed really since 5th grade. So I've always enjoyed writing, and I've known for a long, long time that I would write. But no, my process is not any easier. In fact, I'm on deadline right now, and you can see I was revising these pieces just today. In fact, here, I'll show you my messy notes. So, it's due to my publisher in a frighteningly short amount of time, and I'm still, so.
Well, thank you for joining us and taking out a precious hour.
I appreciate it.
Did you ever meet Sean O'Henry?
Oh yeah.
Was he a fictional kid? Okay.
Well, that's not his real name.
Oh, okay.
And mainly, I would name him, for the sake of creative nonfiction, but I don't want to give him an unnecessary ego boost. But, he wore the right sneakers. He had a skateboard. His name was spelled SEAN, and that was enough for me to be in love. And I was.
I love that. I love that.
Yes, I did. I passed him a note, and he wrote me a note back about, did I listen to Jane's Addiction? And I was not that cool. I was much more of a Belle Biv DeVoe girl at that time. It was not to be.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We want you to come back, Amanda and I, who I forgot to send a shout out to, who co-hosts the show with me and produces it. We want you to come back and read more of that memoir. Maybe do a book release when that thing comes out in the winter. That'd be fantastic.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Truly my honor to have you.
Oh, bye.
Bye-bye. Our next reader is Amanda Johnston, who is a poet. And Amanda, are you out there?
Here I am. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Wonderful reading, Alexis. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for that new book too.
Yeah, I agree. Were you in Alexis's class, Amanda? You knew each other at Stone Coast?
We were together at Stone Coast along with Nikki. We call ourselves the witches of the Stone House. So we're starting again tonight. It's beautiful. I'm so happy
I
to be with my cohort, my folks.
So we'll have all three of you back at the same time. That would be super fun when you're ready.
Yeah.
Very cool. Amanda, what are you going to read tonight? What are you working on?
I have got some poems that I'm going to share. What I'm working on, I have some new poems, a new manuscript, but quite honestly, I don't know that it's ready to be shared yet. So I didn't bring the new work. I brought some works from my 2 chapbooks, some works from my book, Another Way to Say Enter, and I'm going to read some of those. I was sharing with some other poet friends recently that there's this push to have always something different, and new when you're coming up to a reading. But the reality too is there's many people who have never heard any of my poems. So I hope there's also some listeners out there, some viewers who are getting introduction to me and are going to hear some of my work for the first time. New work is coming, but I can't speak on it. I got to let it cook a little bit more.
No, that is fine. My mom has not heard your poetry before, probably, so she's excited.
Hi,
And
Mom.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Another way to say enter, that was the title?
Yes.
Okay. I try to read, I can't stay caught up, but I'll get that and read it eventually before you come back, because I'm sure it's fantastic stuff. So it's all your time. Go right ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Like I said, I'm going to start with a couple poems that I haven't read in a while from my chapbook, because I don't believe that poems actually get older, that the writing gets old, because of what I just said, it's always going to be new to someone. And when we write things and share them, publish them in the world, then they're able to transcend space and time. So I still love these poems, and I'm happy that I get this opportunity to share them with you tonight. First one, Guap. You dirty, not laced with coke, rubber band belted friend, you money clip baller, flaky onion of access, you money bin, golden goose, you hard earned check, overtime weekend, you late night sugar daddy, mama needs a new pair of shoes, you never enough, more money, more problems. You jonesing for the Joneses 6-inch green picket fence. You financed high interest. You no free lunch, snake-eyed gambler. You charity case, crowdfunding do-gooder. You pocket money, dead president's tomb. You trust, lie, cheat, just enough to get by. You write on time, enough to get by. You make a way to get by. Scratch off. Like cigarette ash, little bits of gray float on gaseous fumes at the convenience store. Losers litter oil-slicked parking spaces. Mama turns each one over like headstones, like she has the power to resurrect the dead. Pawn shop. Once a month, Mama visits the things we used to have. She pays a fee to keep our stuff locked away. Penny candy. Our little hand-shoved nuggets of sugar, firecrackers, now and laters, super bubble gum into the metal drawer and push it through bulletproof glass. The cashier counts them out one by one as we make bronze towers of our money. A shotgun overseas from the wall behind his head. Rations. Mark a line across the plastic container and initial it. Cereal is a luxury. Toss the generic boxes before the kids see them. Say, don't ever let people think they're better than you to the cans of tuna and beans as you line them up like soldiers in the cupboard. Count out each meal, each mouth. Save the box of Jell-O for Sunday. Just add water. Lord, let there be water. So those were poems from my chapbook titled Guap. You can actually still get the chapbook and the other chapbook I wrote at the same time, Lock and Key, in a bundle on my website at amandajohnston.com. And that bundle comes with digital copies of both chapbooks along with audio of all of the poems in there. And just a tidbit that guap is slang for money, usually meaning like a high amount of money, but the poems in guap are mostly not having money. So, all right. Now I'm going to read a couple poems from my book, Another Way to Say Enter. Hand to mouth. Busy hands split 2-day-old chicken in half. I pull spine and rib from meat. I make this small body, this bird, new that must be fed again to hungry mouths at my table. Our wing loves who chirp on phones and laugh about whatever isn't killing them. I boil water, add warm chicken and burn my fingers, a small sacrifice. Bone catches in my daughter's throat. This food I gift, a resurrected carcass, gritty with prayer to postpone dirt on the dying. No good deed goes unpunished. I see the white man driving next to me and consider every scenario of this moment as we approach a red light and what's at risk if I lower my window, expose my daughter and myself to the unknown repercussions of kindness. I calculate the risk involved to tell him his gas cap is open. His face, a concoction of morning traffic and time, ignores my initial honk and gesture toward his tank. My daughter asks, "Is it safe?" I assure her I'll smile, be soft, do all the right things that in no way guarantee will survive this human interaction should he see danger, a threat in my concerned Black woman face. I honk again. I refuse to live in a world where we're too afraid to do what's right. The man turns toward our car, aware now of our existence, and the immediate future rests in his lap and what's beyond my understanding. He nods and drives off, gas cap dangling. My daughter corrects me, "No, Mama, the gas. Is it safe?" And I'm lost in meaning. What is safe in this burning for survival? Peeling Potatoes. It's a short poem after Lucille Clifton, the GOAT. If you've never read any Lucille Clifton poetry, shame on you. Correct that now. But she's one of my idols, and I wrote this short poem after her. It's actually her poem titled Cutting Greens. So this is my poem, Peeling Potatoes. I palm each spud in my hand like a rock or newborn baby's head. Under rushing water, my wrist turned up toward the blade. I cut away, eyes and skin, exposing the white meat to mash into soft submission. I don't always peel them. I want the brown to flavor my pot with gritty earth rooted in Blackness. Let's see here. Facing Us, after Yusef Komanyaka. My Black face fades, hiding inside black smoke. I knew they'd use it, damn it, tear gas. I'm grown, I'm fresh. Their clouded assumption eyes me like a runaway, guilty as night chasing morning. I run this way, the street lets me go. I turn that way, I'm inside the back of a police van again, depending on my attitude to be the difference. I run down the signs, half expecting to find my name protesting in ink. I touch the name Freddie Gray. I see the beat cop's worn eyes, names stretch across the people's banner, but when they walk away, the names fall from our lips. Paparazzi flash. Call it riot. The ground. A body on the ground. A white cop's image hovers over us. Then his blank gaze looks through mine. I'm a broken window. He's raised his right arm, a gun in his hand. In the black smoke, a drone tracking targets. No, a crow gasping for air. Night hike. The outdoor Afro's guide promises our eyes will adjust. Moonlight is enough to see the beauty in the dark. Without entering the woods, I see our blackness pull the grassy hem over our bodies. We appear from behind trees, hands up, covered in moss. We fit the description of dead leaves. A mass of mag-light teeth cut branches, startle the wind from our limbs. Boulders clutch their earth. Pine trees lean away from our path. The moon, great witness in the sky, squints us into shadows of what was and wasn't there. History repeating, repeating. Get your hands out my pocket, I shout, to no one in particular, to everyone under my breath, my shadow crawling into my pocketbook, searching for the price of the ticket, crawling into my pocketbook under my breath, my shadow, to no one in particular, to everyone. Get your hands out my pocket, I shout. And this is the last poem I'll share. When my daughter wasn't assaulted, she shook with fear, or was it guilt, at the officer's unraised hand and smile, how she leaned away slowly when he called a tow truck instead of backup, how her tears fled when he showed mercy over rage for the couple on the side of the highway, flat tire wasted against asphalt. She couldn't help but look at her white boyfriend pacing along this strip of road and wonder, what if this was a different part of Texas? What if this hero was a different shade of power? Would she be so lucky? Or was it luck? If the absence of a known pain is just a heavy hand in repose. Thank you.
Wow, Amanda. That was explosive work.
Thank you.
I write down lines that, strike me. That gas cap poem was fantastic. Very moving. The shotgun on the wall at the check cashing place. What details? Do you write based on life experience or?
Oh yeah, I'm very much a student of the theory of Sharon Olds. I'm the I in the I.
Yeah.
Even if it's not from a direct lived experience, it's still coming through my lens. So I won't pretend that I don't have an imprint on the work. But yes, a lot of my work is pretty autobiographical. It's taken from my lived life and my experience. I was just thinking, though, reading those last poems, I said they're not new poems, but I wish they were old poems, so old that people didn't have any frame of reference for what they were about.
Instead of being timely poems. Mm-hmm. I do agree with you that great poems don't really age. But you're definitely writing in a powerful historical moment. Birding for survival, gritty earth rooted in blackness. Who did you work with when you were at Stone Coast? Who were your mentors?
Oh my gosh. All of the faculty were amazing at Stone Coast. While I was there, I got to work with Tim Siebels. I got to work with, Alex Paige. I got to work with, of course, Annie Finch. She was the director when I came in. And back then, when you came in, it was required that you take formal poetry. If you were a poetry student, you had to take poetry, form and meter with Annie. And it was a blessing. Oh my God. And God cannot forget all praise due to Joy Harjo, our current and 3-time poet laureate, U.S. poet laureate. She was my first faculty mentor, my first semester. And every time I mention that, I also say I would not have finished my MFA without her incredible guidance, literally calling me on the phone and saying, you are not going to quit. So it takes, amazing teachers and professors to carry us through this. And then I've had the great joy and honor to come back and teach at Stone Coast as well. So.
Well, they are lucky to have you. I've never said this, and I know I'm going to break a lot of, poet hearts, egos or something, but I teach in Sacramento. It's a very diverse campus, and I have creative writing class. I would love to bring you in some time to read those poems.
Oh, I'd be happy.
Just think about it. Just the kids. I say kids, but the students will. Man, you have a lot. You have things to offer. I don't. They're going to dig that work and dig you as a person.
Well, thanks for having me here tonight. And
yeah, you're very welcome.
Happy to be part of this incredible reading again with my witch sisters, my Stonehouse witch sisters.
Yes, we need to bring the three of you back again. So thank you so much, Amanda. I will see you again. Bye-bye. I was just shaken in a good way by those poems. My name is Troy Myers. If you're just joining us, I'm a graduate of the Stonecoast MFA in creative writing. Sometimes when I hear these other alumni read, I think I should go back to Stonecoast and start over. We just heard from Alexis Paige and then Amanda Johnston, some truly striking poems and lines. We were in the summer meeting every other Sunday night to have readers. And so if you are a Stonecoast alumni or you are about to graduate or your faculty, current or past, we have our first faculty reader in 2 weeks. Rick Bass is going to come read with his student Christine Paracchio. So I'll throw this out there to the readers tonight too, including Amanda, but who work with Troy Arjo. But I would love to have a student-faculty pairing. Amanda and I would love, Amanda Plow, who does the show with me, would love to do that every quarter or so. So any of you out there who think, wow, I had a mentor I really appreciated, feel free to ring them on. We'll give them twice the time, and we'll let you open for them. And the two of you can talk about your experience working together. I would love to. Looking forward to 2 weeks from now. So we're at every other week, as I said earlier, and we have one more reader tonight. And our last reader, Nikki Patin, I hope. I'm very excited to hear Nikki read. I met her just before. She is a passionate person. So Nikki, are you out there?
Yes, I am. I'm right here. How are you, Troy?
How close did I get with Patin?
You got pretty close. And I
Okay.
usually give people mnemonic device, well, not mnemonic, but like weird little like rhymes to help them remember it. So I tell them Patando Commando or Botanical Gardens or Patanda Bear or Patando Calrissian. And then that's the way that, people end up remembering.
Botanical Gardens. Yeah. I just forgot to ask you before, so that's why I just wanted to get it right. Oh, what happened to Nikki? Where'd she go? There you are.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, you went to Stonecoast with these other two wonderful women. And what are you going to read tonight? What are you working on?
So I'm always working on 1.5 million different projects at once, but tonight I'm going to read a couple of poems and then a couple of pieces from a memoir that I've been working on for a very long time, and who knows if I'll ever publish it. I'm a single parent and nonprofit executive, so my time is always pretty limited, but I'm working on a memoir called What Was Left Behind, so I'll read some work from that.
Absolutely. You can just read the whole thing chapter by chapter here.
It might take a while. I haven't even started the Alexis Paige editing process yet, so I'm
okay.
As a coach.
Well, we have time. I hope we do this for a long time. Nikki, the time is yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for listening. The first piece I'm going to read is from an anthology I was published in earlier this year called the Carving Out Rights Anthology, which featured teachers and folks who are navigating the systems of incarceration in the U.S. This is a sestina, and it is called Shout from the Distance. The air always smells wet. The bread always looks dry. There's never any physical contact. Every hall, every wall evokes distance. Forced to gather together, some choose to remain apart. We thrive on remaining apart, even though everyone's blood is wet. No one wants to be forced together. Wells stay running dry. No longer yearn to bridge any distance. Generations of compelled contact. Leaves us resenting further contact. I like you better when we're apart. Isn't that the shout from the distance? Throats parched in the shadow of your wet. You understand the cruelty of dry, but even that can't bring us together. Everybody's sick of together. How we infect each other on contact, eyes empty and dry, relentless in our pursuit of apart, Whose heart can stay wet when even blood can't go the distance? How far is the distance from resentment to together? When too many faces are wet, bloodied and buried on contact, love and self kept profitably apart, all bitter and broken and dry. Even the sky is dry. How soothing the disassociated distance. This is how you keep us apart. Spirits wrestling to come together. Didn't we come here to make contact? To understand these levels of wet? Fear that drives us apart, dry, chasing wet across the distance. All we got is together. No revolution without contact. So, next piece I'm going to write is an epistolary piece. You'll find that my work, I got my start as, yes, I can do a 5-minute set about, I have my name mispronounced because it's pretty funny. I'm going to write that one actually. I got my start in writing as a, well, let's say I found my place in writing through spoken word. So a lot of my work is really performative, and it can be hard to translate to the page. But most of the work that I'm reading tonight is meant in a lot of ways to be performed, to be sort of, acted. That's the only way that I know how to write. And so this piece I wrote as part of my memoir that I'm working on. It's a letter to my grandmother. This is Miss Ida May. Miss Ida May. That one picture I have of you makes everything that I ever knew about myself confirmed and not able to be doubted or denied. Your name, which sounds like greens and cornbread, like the blues, like green grass in deep summer, like a river flowing slow but sure, like the woman from Tennessee that would affirm that Black folks did indeed invent rock and roll, is a lesson in the spirit knowing what it is before the brain or even the heart can catch up. You're the only Black woman in my lineage to whom I can trace a line who isn't the direct product of an interracial union. This is important. My mother is mixed with silky hair and a complexion that most people think is Puerto Rican or Mexican, and she was raised by her white mother, my maternal grandmother, and that kind of motherhood hits different. As hard as it is for me to write these next words, I believe they are true. That white motherhood that yields mixed children is not often grounded in love. That the white motherhood that raised my mother held a sinister edge that I felt even as a child. It is a motherhood crafted of spite, anti-Blackness, festering alongside maternal instincts, lack of knowledge, understanding and empathy, white supremacy breeding a distrust of one's own children. I am the daughter of that daughter, and none of them knew what to do with my hair, my body burgeoning as early as 3rd grade, my self-hatred pouring in with every stereotype, every joke, poking tiny holes into my consciousness until it was a raw and gaping maw of confusion and despair. You would have known, I think, how to help me navigate, how to line myself with pride, or at least common sense enough to guard against this pointed hatred that helped construct a clear quarter of my DNA. You, Ida May, might have taken my face between hands I imagined to be heavy with labor, but gentle with care, and looked me in my eye and told me the truth, that this world may be crafted with the hatred of what and who is Black, but that we are the literal essence of the universe, and so can and should love ourselves even if no one else will. You would have shown me how to carry a big body with dignity, how to be big and pretty and bold without shame. You would have shown me what it really means to keep on keeping on, how to walk through this world without looking like what I've been through. You would have taught me strength and conviction well before trauma took up that instruction. I'd like to think that you would have taught me how to view this hatred from a distance, how to observe it, note it, strategize, not even against it, but around it. And ultimately find meaning and purpose outside and beyond anybody's white gaze. Maybe. I am deeply speculating here, wishing for wisdom from you, my other grandmother who died a year to the month before I was born. The one picture that I have of you shows a woman staring at the camera with no smile, expression indecipherable. Are you determined, scared, resigned, static? Are you pretending, masking whatever you felt that day, that moment with the armor of a woman who didn't want to give up anything, not even a smile? Are you just tired and waiting for whoever took that picture to finish up so you can do whatever it is that was next or necessary? I don't know. And I won't ever know. You were gone by the time you were 44. As my fingers type this letter to you as an ancestor, I am 42 and still feeling like I've barely cracked my 20s. I can't imagine being gone a few months and a year from now when I'll turn 44. I can't imagine being gone before 50, which is how old he was when my father, your son, died when his heart literally exploded. Both of you are big people. I'm working on building strength to better carry the bigness that is my birthright so that I might go a further distance than either of you were able to go. As I write this, in the middle of a pandemic that has kept me home and out of the view of the world for a year, I know that when I emerge again, very few people will recognize me and very few will know what I did to better carry the weight of my bloodline's legacy so that I can see the 50-year mark that you and my father did not. That is what I want to know most about you. What were you carrying? Why did you stop? What cut you down at the tender age of 44? Of all the ancestors I do not know and have never met, you are the one who I miss the most. How can I miss someone I've never met? How could I not miss someone who has eyes just like mine, who is big and lush just like me, but seems a bit sullen and sad, also just like me? From what my research into my ancestry reveals, here's what I know to be true about you. You were born in Topeka, Shawnee, Kansas on June 19, 1932, almost 2 years after my maternal grandmother, who was born August 7, 1930. What is also true is that when you were 8, you lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and that the census listed your race as Negro. Public records suggest that you had at least 2 children, one of whom was my father. My mother told me that all she knew about you is that you were nice and worked in public relations. Everything else is lost to time. What you like to eat, what kind of music you like to listen to, whether or not you were an artist, if you drank or smoked or were ever really loved. I can tell you that I like to eat things with a lot of flavor and love food from all over the world. I listen to all kinds of music, but jazz is my first love. I am absolutely an artist. I've done plenty of drinking and smoking, but not so much now. I have been really loved, definitely heartbroken, and have loved when loving only caused me harm. I have been most loved by your great-grandson, who is currently 7 years old and has been and is my greatest lesson in what it means to care for someone other than yourself. My Blackness has always been questioned, though not by me. I've always known I was Black, never wanted to be anything other than that, and despaired when other Black folks treated me as an outsider because of how strong my matrilineage shows up in my features and in my hair. They think these light eyes come from the white side, but these eyes come from my daddy, my father, who I never met until I was 21. Had to track him down like a hunting dog tracks dinner. When I found him, staring into his eyes was like staring into my own. When I saw a picture of myself, him, and my mother all together, I finally felt like all the pieces of myself fell into place. Staring at that picture, I no longer felt like an outsider, and my Blackness could no longer be questioned. It is a concrete fact, much like the fact that my eyes don't come from my father as much as they come from you. Miss Ida Mae, I hope that you are somewhere where you can see your granddaughter, see me speaking up for folks who have been hurt, see my poems and my tears when I read them aloud, see me battling depression and anxiety, beating it back every day as I will myself relentlessly toward liberation, see me publicly relating, perhaps channeling you on stages, behind podiums, and in front of classrooms, doing everything in my earthly power to honor the DNA that straightens my spine and fires my tongue. I hope you can see me raising your great-grandson to be free and happy, and how I say yes to him more than I say no, because the world is full of no, and I have a sneaking suspicion that you and my father heard plenty of that. I know my mother has, and that even my white grandmother did. My people are intimately familiar with no, experts on it, in fact, and so I say yes to my little boy as much as I can, because that is our next lesson. I love you. If you haven't heard that in a while, if you've never heard it enough in your short life, please hear it from me, even if you were an asshole, even if you were mean, even if you were cruel, abusive, and perhaps a total and unapologetic bitch. I love the whole and entire you as always. The pressure is on Black women to carry what others can't or won't, and I'm sorry to rest my pride and my promise on your ancestral shoulders, but you're it, Miss Ida Mae. You are the closest Black woman to me, from whom I can draw a direct line to myself, and I am holding that line. I am holding that line, and I am honoring it in you by honoring myself and all that I have to offer this beat up, fucked up, mercilessly nasty ass world. This place is on my shoulders and on my ass too, but knowing that I am holding it with you, that we are holding it together, that you are somewhere, somehow You know my heart, you know my spirit. Put some strength into arms that occasionally tremble, picks up heads sometimes ready to fall, puts the steel back into a spine that is prone to melt at the temperature of want, and this soothes me. There's a Black woman to whom I belong, watching over me as I hold the world between my shoulder blades, just like she did. All that I ask is that you forgive me for all the ways in which I may have dishonored you, those times that I made choices out of self-hatred rather than love, those times when I was too scared to do right and too stubborn to acknowledge it. Every day, though, I am striving to be better than I was before, to do better when I know better. I hope, wherever you may be, that you are proud that I carry your eyes and your blood, that your legacy has become through me. Your loving granddaughter, Nikki. Thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. Ooh.
Wow, Nikki.
Peace always makes me so emotional.
It should. That was very brave.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
Thank
raw, very powerful, and so much content, social content and personal content in that letter.
Yeah. Amanda just asked if I wanted to do one more.
Yeah.
I can do one more.
Totally.
I'm going to give a content warning, though, to the one more that I'm going to do. And I debated whether or not to read this piece, but since Amanda is asking, I feel like that's the message that I should do it. So
yes, you can read anything here.
With your permission, I will share it. This is another letter. And I don't know where this piece is going to go. Some people have said, put it on a poster. It belongs on a t-shirt. I put it into a version of my book, and a friend who's helping me edit it was like, nope, take it out. So who knows like where it's going to go, but it's a letter too. And it's pretty self-explanatory. So this is called Dear White Supremacist Capitalist Heterosexist Patriarchy. Content warning, there is a lot of violence and cussing in this piece. So do what you got to do to take care of yourself. I could list every way in which you've hurt me or betrayed me or lied to me. I could run the list of indictments like a relay, ordering indiscretions and missteps like batons into hand after hand. I could string you up like a necklace of offal, pockets of shit bubbling like baubles underneath the tight casing of intestine. I could let you dangle, hang you from a rafter, and watch you cure into a decent human being. I could sink hooks into your back. You might possibly like that. Might sigh as the sharp metal bit gently through your tender flesh. I could track you down and look you up. I could kidnap you from your house, take you to a cold, dirty, empty room, and swing a light bulb maniacally above your head while I made you look me in the eye as I recount the glorious and myriad ways in which you have fucked up and fucked me over. I could make you face me, and I mean do nothing but fucking face me. Put your head into a harness.
Mom?
Yes, Tobias.
I want to shower.
Okay, go right ahead, son.
You can't just kick me out.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to read a piece, baby, but you know, go do what you got to do. This is called single parenting while trying to be an artist. Put your head into a harness. Use tiny steel fingers to hold your eyelids open while the tears streamed into your throat and watch you choke on your I'm sorry's and I didn't know's and I will never again. And that's just how I was taught. And maybe you should teach me a workshop. I could get right next to your face, distorted by terror and not knowing what comes next. I could make you feel my breath on the salt, drying your face into cracked land. I could speak more quietly than you've ever heard me before. Given my propensity for screaming and yelling, I could tell you all manner of torturous ideas that I have lined up for you. Tell you how much I dream about hurting you in ways that would never heal, that you would never heal from, and smile while I speak as softly as the grass in the morning. I mean, if I were really moved, and I mean so inspired, I could take a blade and run it smoothly down your cheek or across your bicep or around one trembling thigh and let the cool air from the metal breathe against your testicles and just leave it there as you begin to struggle against the rope or cuffs or tape or whatever I've used to restrain you, then watch you think better of your panicked and ill-thought plan to escape and go still. And I'd probably enjoy that. I think about all the ways I could decimate my own humanity in order to destroy you, how I'd gut my dignity just to debone and flay you and mount you on the wall of my living room. I think about how much mud would streak my belly if I dragged myself through the gutter to meet you at your level and destroy your faith in everything. I mean, I could do all of it, every bit of it, and never regret it, except then I'd be you. I'd be a piece of irredeemable shit. So I choose mercy instead. I choose grace. I choose a different kind of restraint. All I'm waiting for now is your gratitude, for you to say thank you for being better than you in every way and being humbled by never having to experience what you have always deserved, the terror you inflict on all of us. Sincerely.
Thank you for reading that, Nikki. I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
I have a love of hyperviolence as a metaphor. Happens often in my work. I think you might be muted, Alexis.
How was it, everyone, to read together?
Oh my gosh. I love y'all so much.
Same.
Love y'all too.
Yep, I miss everybody.
It
I
was
feel like we
great.
should schedule a Zoom with the witches.
Yes.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, all of the work, both of you, it's just an honor always to be in the same space with you, virtually, in person, at a reading, at a bar, wherever we're going to be at. It's magic is going to happen. Y'all are just incredible, incredible. And
Same.
Troy and Amanda, thank you for doing this and making this space available. It's, you know, all of these spaces doing what we can to still be in community. It has truly saved people's lives during this pandemic. So thank y'all for being a part of that effort in the larger world.
Definitely.
Okay,
You're
ditto
very-
everything Amanda just said.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag same.
You're very welcome. It started out of the isolation of the pandemic, but it's grown into something bigger than that. The three of you are so good, so talented, and so good together. There's so much love.
Mhm.
It's good for me to feel that too. So
Yeah.
we will certainly
I
have you back.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, I think there's like this energy sometimes amongst writers that can be so competitive. And so I think when you find your writers where it's like coalition and not competition, where it's like collaboration and like love and support, not like who's trying to like one up each other. And there's just, it's also like for me, very humbling to read with these two people because they're just so talented and so accomplished. And I love that too. I love like being in community with folks that make me feel like, okay, there's also like I love y'all and I support y'all, but also like you're so good. It's like steel sharpening steel. Like you're pushing me to be better too. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Right back at you, Nikki.
Yeah.
Same. And I haven't seen y'all in years,
Years.
but it's like yesterday.
Yeah.
Like nothing. We're in the tavern. Where
That's right.
No, you wish
Or
we
at
were
the fire pit.
the fire pit. Yes. It's
having some chowder or
a lobster roll.
a lobster roll.
that lobster stew. That lobster stew in the tavern was it. I would spend all my money. I'd come down there and they'd say, "You want?" They already know what I want. Just queue it up. Bring the bowl.
That's right.
Well, you definitely
right.
spend all your money this year because lobster, like everything else, is like through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
God.
I saw that. That hurt my feelings. I saw
Yes,
that.
me too. I'm very hurt by that.
I can't even talk about lobster in Chicago. Like what passes for lobster here is just, it's not even worth mentioning.
No.
Pizza.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, we got some pizza on lock and some
got-
Mexican food that will like, you know, just make you slap your mama and call her by a different name. Like it's, like
And
that, we got that.
Chicago style, not New York. We can leave New York.
Thank you.
But I was born in Chicago, so.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you feel the love. But let's also talk about that breakfast because we would also like that was the other place where we would gather. Was that ridiculous breakfast buffet?
That breakfast. Sorry, now we're just gonna talk about food. The writing is taken now to the food.
Yeah,
come to Stone Coast, write amazing work, and enjoy the food. That should be the food.
Yes. Well, you kicked it off with that cutting greens, peeling potato situation, which I love that poem by Lucille Clifton. Like you started it.
Yes, the breakfast, all of the thing, and the tea time. Oh my God. It would get serious. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 4:00. It's tea time.
Yeah,
If
can I
y'all don't
please load
know-
up this plate with finger sandwiches and cookies? Thank you.
Watchers, you come if you're not part of the Stone Coast community, I have to explain this to you. Stone Coast, you are at the incredible Hairseek Inn, and there they have the tavern with all of the yummy lobster things we're talking about. But they also have tea time for all of the guests at 4:00. And it would be finger sandwiches, cookies, scones, coffee, teas, just luxury and decadence, deliciousness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
She's selling it. I love it.
Yes.
I feel for the residents of the inn who were not part of Stone Coast when they didn't know they were going to be bombarded by all of these hungry creative writing students.
Pretentiously eating finger sandwiches and discussing the craft of writing, which is
Yes,
my favorite part of all of it.
And very, without shame, also stacking up sandwiches to take to the room.
Oh my God.
I'm putting
my God.
sandwiches. I put cookies in my pockets. And
That's right. Crumbs all in my journal. Don't
Yes.
judge me.
It's a magical place.
It is. The massive, oversized polar bear. That just
The
felt
polar
like a
bear
friend.
playing the piano. Yes.
Yes.
Lovely.
We should go back.
Yeah, I'm like,
Maybe we
when's
could
the
arrange
reunion?
like a Stonehouse reading series, greatest hits, and bring some folks back to the residency because I miss it as well.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
So
you
fun.
two are just fantastic. I'm so sincere when I say that, and we will have you all back. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful night.
Thank
Thank
you so
you,
much.
too. Bye,
All of
everybody.
you. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Love you.